Everybody makes mistakes. That's a simple fact of life. But in the world of modern gaming, it seems that everybody makes mistakes. Hyperbole aside, the phenomenon of the newest and often most anticipated games releasing in a less than decent or even just plain terrible state feels far too commonplace for it to just be some kind of bizarre coincidence. From Cyberpunk 2077 and the Callisto Protocol to The Last of Us Part 1 and Star Wars Jedi Survivor on PC, a very decent chunk of big titles are being released riddled with bugs, frame rate issues, rendering errors, and any mix of game killing and often soul destroying general gameplay problems. It's enough to make you drop to your knees while holding your keyboard or controller and scream "Why?" over and over again at your bedroom ceiling. Now, I could offer up several very feasible reasons for games releasing in a broken state. A lack of decent quality assurance practices, a fundamental shift from focusing on making great games to making great profits, a lack of time, and, as Alexander Yordanov of Sapphire Nation points out in an article from March 2023, the rise of early access games that allow many publishers to simply sidestep criticism are all perfectly valid points and definitely factors contributing to this phenomenon. Now, I'm someone who generally likes to look deeper into issues and find all of the interrelated contributing factors, but this time around, I'd actually like to offer up what you might consider a simple answer and, later on, a slightly more complex, but nevertheless still pretty simple answer. So my argument here actually glances over the technical aspects and is definitely a lot more philosophical in nature, but hear me out. So the modern human condition is a very troubling one, and for many reasons. In recent years, we've become accustomed to frequent hits of dopamine thanks to the pervasiveness of social media and access to better tech. The real problem for many of us is that, on one or more levels, we're actually just bored, or at the very least, forever searching for the next bigger dopamine hit to combat the whole law of diminishing returns thing. This inevitably means that we're constantly in need of new and exciting things, so if nothing else, the emphasis for us has consequently shifted from quality to quantity. I'm not necessarily saying we are completely to blame, far from it. In many regards, the entire system has been deliberately engineered this way to ensure a certain level of devotion, but only enough that the individuals within the system still feel a sense of autonomy and therefore not enslaved by it. This results in the optimal level of compliance, and for the most part, the whole thing ticks over just fine. So this has undoubtedly been going on for well over a decade, but since March 2020, I would argue that, as a whole, things have gotten exponentially worse as the pandemic effectively forced many people into online spaces in order to earn a living and keep up with progress. Whether we like it or not, there has been a shift in what you might call the collective consciousness of the human species, and I think it can be summed up in a single word: meh. Why do so many games release in a broken state? It's because the people developing and releasing games simply don't care. And now that games can be fixed by patches thanks to the whole digital download approach, there actually isn't any real incentive for gaming companies to get it perfectly right at launch. Take the money from fans, watch them complain, fix it later, and possibly see reviews improve somewhat. This is obviously completely counterintuitive and doesn't apply in every single case, but I wouldn't call this surprising since the amount of utterly counterintuitive behavior I've borne witness to, especially over the past 3 or so years, has been utterly staggering. I guess what I'm saying here is, why look for a complex answer or set of answers when a simple one more elegantly explains the situation? Yeah, I'm pulling the whole Occam's razor card here, but if you start looking for nuanced explanations, these actually sound more like excuses or justifications, and I don't like to give anyone credit where it isn't due. The real problem here is that, because it's something that's now happening pretty much on a monthly or even weekly basis, it's actually just becoming an accepted industry practice, and that, my friends, is very bad indeed. If you believe in slippery slope fallacies, just keep accepting the current status quo, and we'll see just how much your faith is tested. Surely it can't get any worse. Well, as we've seen time and time again, yes, it surely can, and, in all likelihood, will. If you think about it, the whole apathy from gamers and apathy from gaming companies really does provide a relatively convenient answer which also encompasses all the technical aspects I mentioned earlier and contextualizes them. So instead of being mere excuses, they're now just underlying factors in light of our analysis. As for the slightly more complex but still pretty simple answer, well, it really just comes down to wider economic factors and the fact that video game companies are shedding jobs at an unprecedented rate. In an article appearing on ET Now, Unity, a company that develops software for games, got rid of 225 employees in June 2022 and a further 284 in January 2023. Now in May 2023, Unity will do away with another 600 jobs, some 8% of its staff, meaning the company will have let go of over 1,000 employees in just under a year. Layoffs and downsizing generally means that income is a problem, and it also means that fewer people have to do the same amount of work. Inevitably, these kinds of moves lead to a loss in overall quality and cutting back on unnecessary QA practices. I don't think I really have to do the math here for you. All in all, according to an article by James Rogers of MarketWatch, the first 4 months of 2023 have seen 192,000 tech sector jobs wiped out. That's an average of 48,000 jobs a month, which is pretty mind-blowing to say the least. If I'm honest, I don't really see the situation improving anytime soon, unless gamers actually manage to stage a boycott that is impactful enough to induce change. But as we've seen in the past, these are basically never successful. If you don't believe me, check out Nate the Hate's very good and informative podcast about this topic. I want to give you a positive takeaway here, but I'm not really sure what to say. I won't tell you that all hope is lost, but amidst a worsening economic downturn, acquisitions and mergers, and downsizing, I think it's prudent to point out that things are likely to get worse before they get better, and that may be a long way off. Anyway, that's all I've really got to say on the matter. What are your thoughts on this dilemma? Are we doomed to experience lackluster releases for the foreseeable future? Let me know in the comments. Please give this video a like and subscribe to the channel so we can keep getting awesome content out to you. From me and the crew here at Metasquad, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.